For the third year and counting, Richard Skipper has been celebrating the artists you love.
And what are some of the things that you've really run out of time? And we've got to talk about your latest. I want to go back a little bit, first of all, and celebrate a true legend.
Richard Skipper is all about celebrating life, art, and his guest body of work.
And did you pursue performing opportunities while you were in high school?
Please join us while he showcases these diverse and talented individuals. Here's Richard Skipper.
Happy Wednesday, everyone, and welcome to Richard Skipper Celebrates. For those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. My show is all about celebrating life, celebrating art, celebrating artists, celebrating March. It's National Women's History Month. It's Cabaret Month. It's celebrating Music and Education Month. And everyone who knows me knows how important that is to me. It's a matinee day, and our theaters are opening again. Mask mandates are being lessened, but still wear those masks, get vaccinated, do whatever you need to do so that we can all get out and celebrate each other. It's National Banana Cream Pie Day, and I love banana cream pie, especially if you go to Joe Allen's. And if you're in the theater district, that's the best place to be. And I'm also celebrating the one and only Rita Gardner, who is joining us today, and she is always worth celebrating. And she is going to be appearing with my very dear friend, Leroy Reams, and they are going to be appearing together at Feinstein's 54 Below. And Rita, first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
As I said, the name of this show is Richard Skipper Celebrates. And I want to know, what are you celebrating today?
Being here.
Well,
one thing at a time. Being here. Meeting you.
I am so glad that you're here. I always start the show with a random question, and I have pulled a random question that I have not even looked at. So
okay.
I don't know what I'm about to ask you, and I hope it's not going to offend you. But this is a great question to start with. What is your most powerful and vivid memory?
I think my most powerful and vivid memory is I married Herb Gardner. And we eloped, and but we didn't celebrate anything because his uncle had just died, so we went to a funeral. So I thought, I'll go home and I'll either divorce him or get a job. And that's what I remember, because I got Laurie Noto on the phone and it all worked out. But that's what I remember. And I thought that the Fantasticks was a review because I just finished doing one.
Well, we're going to get there in a moment, because I've been doing a lot of research, and it's interesting. Somebody reached out to me the other day. This year marks the 100th anniversary of the birth of Judy Garland, and there's a connection there, believe it or not, folks, because I do my research. And later this week, I have Sam Harris on the show, who is also coming to Feinstein's 54 Below. And when he was on Star Search, Over the Rainbow became a signature song for him. And why don't you share with us how Over the Rainbow ties in with you and the Fantasticks?
Over the Rainbow. I love Over the Rainbow. That song means something to me. When I saw Judy Garland in The Wizard of Oz and she sang that, I only wanted to sing it over and over and over again. That's how it was so beautifully done. There aren't very many people who do that now. And so that was very special. I'll never forget that.
Didn't you audition with the Fantasticks with Over the Rainbow? I think I read somewhere. Or am I mistaken?
No, when I auditioned for Harvey, the next day I came back, looked terrible because I was in black and my hair looked awful and it was raining. And, Word Baker didn't want me to audition. It was Laurie. So I went to Harvey and I just sang something I sang, and it was in the right key. You know, sometimes when you sing in the right key, it excites the composer. He doesn't have to change keys. And
Now,
that's what
Rita,
happened.
with my shows, I always ask our guests if they can come with a photograph of themselves as a 5-year-old. And the reason I always go there is because for me, the 5-year-old self is the purest self. It's at a time when they are just starting out in life, before they start school, before teachers start telling them who they should be or who they should not be. But I discovered in your case, you were already a seasoned professional at 5 years old,
Yes.
which surprised me. And I pulled up a photograph. I think you're a little older than 5 here, but here
Yep.
you are,
Coast
singing.
to coast on a bus.
There you are, coast to coast on a bus, singing on the radio. Your parents heard you singing around the house, and all of a sudden you were out there singing in front of audiences on the radio and everything. Let's talk about how that really began for you.
Well, what happened was um, I had a wonderful grandmother, Paulina, and my father always went there every Sunday and took me. And so they were playing something. Oh, say, can you see? Dee, dee, dee. And as a 4 years old, I knew it. So Paulina said, "This kid can sing." And my father said, "Nobody in our family sings. Are you crazy? She can, and you're going to find out." And so that's what happened. And so when I started to sing in school, when I went to kindergarten, whatever, um, I guess my father wrote a letter to Madge Tucker, who ran Coast to Coast on a Bus with Milton Cross. He was the host. And I went and I auditioned and I got on the show. And I was 5 years old. I didn't think of, no, that's not that. That was WHN. Right after WHN, then I got on. But
So
I
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, but I keep thinking of Coast to Coast because that's when it all started. But I was 5 years old when I was on WHN, and I guess I sang Over the Rainbow.
Yeah.
I don't
Well, let's talk
remember.
about the dynamics of what they did as far as your school life, your family life, what that did for you, and how your friends responded to you. Uh, Obviously, that changed the way they perceived you, I'm assuming. I'm sure it didn't change who you were. But how did people begin to react to you?
Well, it was a question of how I reacted. It was getting used to all of this. And, we didn't have a phone. But I didn't realize that people got messages on a phone. So, no, I didn't know that. So we're rehearsing and we're doing Match Tucker, and it was wonderful. And I met my best friend, Margie. And so I picked up the phone and I heard someone talking. Yes, this is so and so and so and so and blah, blah, whatever. And I put it down and I said, oh my goodness, I don't have a phone. I don't get messages. So maybe later on I can have enough money to buy a phone and I can get messages too. Because that excited me, that people really could get work on the phone. I mean, you picked up the phone and you got a message. I loved that.
Well,
It's a new world.
how soon after that did your family get a phone?
I bought one. I mean, I got one. I started working. Um, I just worked all the time. I didn't realize it, but Coast to Coast was a lovely thing. I had a jazz quartet with my friend Margie and two other ladies. I was doing auditioning for radio shows, I mean, series and whatever, soap operas. I was taught by masters in one way because I learned the craft and I never stopped.
That's amazing. Even at that young age, did it feel like work for you or was it fun for you?
It was something that I discovered by accident, and I loved it. I didn't want to be so short in the first row, but I always loved doing it. Yeah. And my father said, "This is who you are. Don't give this up." He was
But
very.
I also read that your parents instilled in you at a very young age the importance of the education and the craft and the studying, and that it was very important that you study with the best teachers. And let's talk about.
Absolutely. He found teachers. I studied, and I still do. I think that, I used to teach at Herbert Berghoff in Udahagen. I studied with her so many years. She was wonderful. She was wonderful to me. And she said, never stop studying. Never, never, never stop. And I haven't, listen, I have a class on Zoom. I have an acting class with a wonderful, wonderful teacher and director, Sam Jacques. And I do that. I have singing lessons with Kurt Peterson. I'm talking about wonderful people who know their craft. And that's what I was taught. I mean, I don't know any other life in essence.
Well, let's talk about that for just a moment. Arts and education is something that's very important to me. I was very fortunate to be on the board of directors with Carol Channing's Foundation for the Arts. And she worked tirelessly to get arts in education. And I remember one of the things that Harry, her husband at the time, said, if a child is not exposed, they will not know the difference between a microphone and a xylophone. We need.
That's funny.
It's funny and it's true, but we need to expose. And I'll share an interesting story, if I may go there for a moment. Years ago, I went to work with these kids in Weston, Connecticut, which is an affluent community. But when they wanted to get stadium seating for their sports seating, the money was thrown at them. When they wanted to get seating for the auditorium, they had to fight for it. They had to do bake sales and cook. Why do you think that arts in education is still something that we're fighting for at this point in our culture?
Oh, it's sad right now. It's just sad. There's a way of experiencing so many things if you are an artistic person and love it. It's so helpful in your life. It tells you so much. I went to school. I went to Brooklyn College for a minute and a half. Hello. Because I fell asleep in every class. I couldn't keep my eyes open. I had so many things I was doing. And one day the teacher said, listen, you can't be in my class anymore because you fall asleep. I said, oh. He said, we're reading, Shakespeare. Jocasta?
Yes.
Yes. He said, stand up and read it. And I looked at him, and I did. And the class stood up and clapped.
Wow.
And he said, you're an actress, aren't you? I said, yes. So what are you doing here? He said, well, I wanted to do speech classes and other things. I wanted to educate myself in a way. And it was for nothing. So he said, go be an actress. And he called my mother. And he said, would you take your child out of this class and get her back to work? And that's what happened.
One of the other things that is so important with arts and education and doing plays and everything is a sense of community and collaboration. And you started as a singer and you were singing with these jazz quartets and everything. And when the acting began and you started collaborating with other artists, I want to talk about the early stages of your career and you began to work with other artists. What that experience was like for you. And I know, again, in my research that you said you were always learning from the best, and you were always grabbing whatever you could learn from everyone.
Absolutely.
And there were certain
Yeah.
people that you talked about the first time that you saw Marlon Brando, for example, on stage, and Ruth Gordon, and these people that were
Oh,
important to you.
absolutely.
So what it is for you as an artist, and still to this day, and what you glean from working with other artists?
Well, it's very funny because I went to see all of them. You know what I mean? I sat up on the balcony and I saw them work. I saw Streetcar Named Desire. I saw Ruth Gordon, and I appreciated that. And I said, I'm going to steal some of those things. They're teaching me something. As I said, it sounds like a strange life, but it wasn't. It was what I did.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have your life over here. I'm married. I've been married a few times, and that's your life, or whatever life you have. And then it's the work, and the passion has to be for the work. And then you have a wonderful life, hopefully, that too. But I'm saying that that's very important. And when it's instilled in you at 5 years old, you don't forget. You just feel that wonderful sense when you experiencing something and the audience stands up and applauds.
Absolutely.
What is that? They're applauding me. Let's do it again. And that's true.
There's a wonderful book out there called Steal Like an Artist. And
I know
stealing from the best. And it doesn't mean to steal what they're doing, but to steal these things that inspire you, and that spark of genius that you see in everyone. So as you're starting to get older, once you're going into this business and you're starting to understand what the business end of the business is, how did you set about pursuing a career? Was it the people that you knew along the lines, agents, managers, producers, or where did the instinct come from for yourself in terms of how you were going to map out a career?
I knew that at 5. I was with a lot of grown-ups, and I felt, look what they're doing. Let me try it. Sometimes there's some mistakes. Sometimes you don't pick the right person, but that's what I was after. I never thought about it one way or another. They're going to teach me something that I don't know on another way. And sometimes you meet the person and you go, I don't think I want to work with this one. You know what I mean? And then somebody finds you. And I think I let that life happen automatically. Not the other one, but yes, the acting one, the singing one, and when I sing now, and then I did study opera. I don't know. I think you mentioned that because it taught me a lot. I'm not an operatic singer though. And once somebody said, you should be, I said, no, it's not in my voice. I've heard enough opera singers to know that I don't have that sound, but they've taught me how to sing by listening. And it sounds made up, but it isn't, because that's what I did. And then I went on and had a marvelous teacher for many years, and I have another marvelous teacher that keeps me alert. I don't think you can ever really go to sleep and not think about what you have to do the next day. That's not work. It's what you've always wanted to do.
And Rita, for you, it was about the work. It was always about the work. I don't think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I will.
Yeah. There wasn't a specific area of the business that you were specifically saying, I want to be in this area of the business. You went where the work was.
I always went where the work was. I mean, otherwise, I would have started screaming and lose my voice. I would have taken other jobs that made me look stupid. I had one job and I said, Jesus, I should never accepted this. I'm not right for it. You know, that happens too, but it's an education. And I like being educated. It's a part of an education that most people don't get a chance to experience. And I think that if, you know, a child loves that. I mean, the thing of really breaking loose and singing and acting and then making it their profession. And that's how you discover who you are. You don't think about, well, should I fix my hair? Should I do this? Should I do this? No, the other comes first.
Now, you had this very early success as a young singer on the radio. When did the early success happen for you as an actress? I know that you had an early success in Jerry Herman's Nightcap with Charles Nelson Riley.
Yes.
And when that came along, that was a very successful review. If you want to tell us a little bit about the audition and getting into that show. And at that time, reviews were very popular. Also, it was the beginning of reviews and the beginning of the off-Broadway movement as well. If you want to take us to that time frame for those who may not be familiar with it.
Well, I auditioned for a review and I got it. And then I met Charles Nelson Riley, and we used to go around auditioning. I pretended I was his agent. He pretended he was mine. We had, it was hilarious to be with him. And that's how I learned, too. I had a good time with him. He was brilliant at what he did. He knew
Yes.
Absolutely. And I learned a lot, and we were very funny together.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned a sense of the cabaret world, too. And someone said, why don't you do a one-woman show? And I did finally. But it also happened because I didn't expect it. I thought that, you know, oh, no, I'll be on the stage and I'll be an actress. But things come up and it says, this is right for me at this time. It's immediate. And I don't think so much. If I think so much, I don't do anything.
And then you hear about this show that came and went. No one heard about it after, I guess, opened and closed in one night. And that was a little show called The Fantasticks. And of course, I'm joking.
Well, you can't believe it was just Laurie Noto.
Yes.
Laurie Noto said, we have to really get this on a tape or a CD. And MGM said, we don't do that,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And he said, we have to do that. So they said, you better do it fast because we're not paying for this. I mean, you know, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know and Kenneth said, wait, I can't do this. My arm hurts. He's not around, so I can tell this.
Yeah.
And I said, Kenneth, we have to. It's you know, the show, we know it. We do it every night. And when we did it, all of a sudden, it was a hit. People started buying it because it was so well done. I mean, really. And Kenneth looked at his bandage and he says, I think I better take these off. That was the end.
Now, you opened actually out of town. The show opened in, was it East Hampton that you went and tried it out of town? And it exploded. And
well, a lot of very rich, famous, whatever came. All came and they talked about it. So when we got back to New York, you couldn't get a seat. I mean, very famous people came. And the other thing is if you didn't like it, you couldn't leave. There was no exit. So people came with their kids and all of a sudden the kids went, please. And they said, there's no place. So we stopped the show and looked. Okay, now we started again. because there was no outer exit. When you came, you had to see it.
Absolutely. Can we go back to your audition for this? You picked up a copy of Variety. You hear about this show, thinking that you were just coming off the success
Yeah.
of a review.
Yes.
You thought it was another review that you were auditioning
Yes.
for.
That's it. I thought, of course, it's the Fantasticks. What else would it be? Looks, I got the hold of the Variety, and it was luck that Laurie answered. I didn't expect him to answer.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, after I finished talking to him, and he said, okay, come and audition. And when I walked, made me cry. I walked in and Laurie looked at me, and I told you I didn't wear the right clothes. My hair was wet, and that's the girl. He said. And he picked me. So I always remembered that. And Harvey, when he was playing for me, he said, oh, that's what I want. Because I sight read, I had all of those lessons. I was lucky in that way. And I still feel it. I don't care. I just love to work. And I don't want to be one of those people who sit because, for Christ's sake, excuse me.
That's fine.
It's very depressing. We all know that. I'll only go as a tourist. What was that? Reality. I'll only go as a tourist. One of my husbands said that, and I thought that was very clever. Not everything, but that was clever.
Mm-hmm.
Because,
how long were you with the show? And you were the only female in this company of men.
The best job I ever had.
Oh my God. Just what was that experience like for you?
The best. I mean, I shared a dressing room with Tom Jones, and we would argue about one other, I don't know what. I was reading something, he was reading something, he was interested in somebody, I was interested in. It just didn't matter. But we had the best time together because we enjoyed each other. We made each other laugh, and I adore him anyway.
Well, of course, the show went for 40 plus years. When did you know that it was time for you to move on? I mean, obviously, you're in. Those of us, if you're in a hit show, knock on wood, it's sometimes, unless you've already got another offer, you don't want to leave a show. And even if you do get another offer, there's no guarantee that the offer that you get is going to be a success. When did you know that it was time for you to move on?
Well, I started getting older. I said, I can't play this young ingenue forever. I have to go on. No. Starting getting older, and then life takes over, So I introduced some things into my life that I didn't think I could, but I did.
And of course, you're having your own personal life in addition to having a career.
Yes.
How were you able to balance the two? What worked for you? It's a difficult road to hoe, as they say, for a lot of people. How did it work for you?
It never worked. I made it up. I won't go further than that.
Well, that's
but
fine.
it never the being real and living with someone for a long time wasn't at that time for me, because the work has to be an end in itself.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when I got, and that's why Tom Jones was so nice, he would look at me and say, "You're not happy today." I said, "No." And he made me happy. So that was like the beginning of the show. And he was part of that, because I didn't have that kind of life at that time.
Well, what you're describing is true for many people in this business.
I know that. I learned that later.
Yes.
I didn't know it before.
It's what happens there. But with this, you did have, and continue to have a successful career. You've had the luxury of having many great teachers. When I announced that you were going to be on the show, I would like to say that the outpouring of love for you is overwhelming from so many people who talk about you not only as an artist, but as a teacher. So many people about you as a teacher. When did you make the decision that you wanted to be a teacher?
I think as working with Uta. Uta said, well, listen, there's a master class you can do here, and then you can teach this. And she saw that in me. That wasn't something I was thinking of, but I started to learn. And I said, this is not about me in that way. This is about somebody I am trying to get to feel free so they can be wonderful. I said, the nicest part of me came out. I didn't think it could, but I was there and I learned it because then I had a profession that my mother always said, Rita, you have to have another profession just in case. And she was right. And I learned from masters, and I did.
I want to talk about various aspects if you're about the business and get your perspective on these. One thing, long runs. What for you is the secret to being able to sustain a long run, and what is your discipline when you are doing a long run?
A long run? When did I ever have a long run? You're talking about something I don't know. I never had a long run. I mean, a couple of months, 6 months, maybe even a year, but that's not a long run.
For some people, that's a long run.
Oh, not for me. No. I thought a long run ran, it's forever. But no, I never had a really, well, you think of it, I left the Fantasticks. I did this play. I did that play. That closed. Whatever was going on was theater. And then I stopped to live a little bit. And then when I couldn't do that anymore, I mean, in terms of being happy doing it, I always had to go back to work. That's all. And be with somebody that understood that. My husband now understands that.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to know that it's inside you. I mean,
Absolutely.
Especially when you're that young and you don't know. There's something that touches you because other people say, oh, you're talented. You know what I mean? I mean,
Absolutely.
it's so that you get all of the compliments that you always expect from your mother and father, but you got them from other people.
And did you, and I don't know if you still, are you called in to audition? Do you have to audition at this point in your life, or based on your gravitas, for lack of a better word, where are you in that point in your life?
Isn't everybody auditioning for somebody all the time? It never stops. It's a bad word sometimes, but you're always auditioning. It doesn't matter what you do, where you are. I mean, I could go into another subject and I'm not.
Okay.
So you're always auditioning because that's part of living.
Mm-hmm.
And there's always someone who says, I don't believe that. And they show you that they don't believe that. So
trust me, I know what you're talking about.
I can see it in your face. It's a bad word.
It is a bad word. And you've also stood by for, many actresses in this business. What is the, where do you go when you're standing by for another actress as far as the technique? For some people, we've gone through this year. It was in the news where certain things were said. I think that those words were taken out of context, personally. But it came to the forefront how important our understudies and our standbys are in the theater. And of course, you've been in that position. So I'd like for you to speak on that aspect of the business.
It's difficult because you have an idea about a part that you didn't get. That's the first thing, and you never forget that. What did they have that you don't have? They look different, they're older, younger, whatever. But you're being paid, and I need to make money. I have a lot of expenses. I have a lot of things I have to take care of in life. And you have to find a way of making something your own. And that's a very difficult thing. But if you have a wonderful director, and I've also had wonderful directors, you go, I can do this, and nobody will know, but they did, and they loved it. And if they didn't, they came over and said, that's not what we want. But you have to stay in the job if you need the work. And that's what's the objective. In acting, what's the objective? I need to take care of some people, and I need to make money.
Now I want to talk about the work that you've been doing in Cabaret.
Thank you.
Because you love, I mean, the work that your Cabaret work is just so brilliant and wonderful.
Thank you.
Let's talk first of all about the Yale Cabaret Conference and the work that you've done there. You've also taught in that world as well. What is it about the world of Cabaret that you think is still surprising to a lot of people that don't know this world? And this is Cabaret Month, everyone.
I think you take you listen, Irving Berlin. People love Irving Berlin. You take some of those songs, or, I have a show honoring Tom and Harvey. Taking those songs and making them work for you in a way that's real for you. So that it's not just, this. Mm-hmm. It's something that happens to you that you don't even know, but you let it go and you do the homework, and it's so marvelous to feel. And once somebody said to me, a very interesting thing, I was doing something, and I don't remember what, but I came into the show as an understudy, and I was doing a repeat of somebody, and I shouldn't have, because the show was written for the lead, the girl, the woman. Mm-hmm. So finally someone saw it and says, why don't you become the star and do what you do and make it real? And I did. I thought, oh, you're not an understudy now. You're who you are doing the work. And Sunday afternoon, I always remember this Sunday, people, yay, and throwing me flowers and doing, and I said, oh, I learned how to act, didn't I?
Now, was this you replacing someone, or were you still there?
I was replacing someone. Yeah.
So that moment, you made it your own.
Yes. And somebody had to tell me, oh, and you know something? The simplest things that you hear all the time. But if the right person tells you at the right time, you get married, I guess.
You feel that someone gave you permission to be able to do it. That's what it was. Someone gave you the permission to do so.
And I think that somewhere, and that's a very good word, somewhere you find it inside. And sometimes when I do something and I think of someone that's no longer there, in somewhere knowing them and seeing them and understanding what they do, I have the permission. And that relaxes me. You can be very relaxed when you get the permission. So when parents give you the permission in a way that they should, you'll do it and be very happy because it comes from love. If it's real, it comes from love. It comes from somebody else thinking about you, not about themselves. I never realized I realized that. That's a very good question. Thank you.
That's wonderful. Well, going back to the very beginning when your parents did give you permission and allowed you to pursue your heart's desire, this is a profession where a lot of people don't give you permission to live your authentic selves. We are in a profession where people are telling you your hair color is not the right color.
Absolutely.
Your nose is not
Yes.
the size,
Yes.
or your size is not the right size. We are constantly reminded of this. Was there ever a time in your career where you were not given permission to be Rita Gardner? And if so, how did you psychologically forge through that?
Funny you ask that. It was with a director. I was doing a show. I don't have to mention that. And it was very, very difficult to work with him. Everything I did was wrong. No, no, no. Finally, I had enough courage to say, when someone screams at me, certainly in front of everybody else, I can't work. You've had different people coming in, teaching me the scenes, teaching me this, I don't work that way. If you leave me alone, he was going to cut the scenes at the end of the play. Let me do these two scenes. They're very funny, written by a very brilliant writer. Let me just do them the way I do them. You hired me. So I did, and they worked. And it was a wonderful two scenes. And he said, oh my God, I was wrong. And I thought, yes, you were. And in 2 weeks, I left and went to another job.
But, thank God that he admitted that he was wrong.
Yes. Well, there was no way to say no, because all of a sudden, when my wonderful guy, I did it with a wonderful actor, and they were funny, funny scenes, and everybody is laughing. And it's part of this wonderful play, interesting play. He said, he couldn't say he was right. In a way, he apologized. But I knew that all of that time that I went nuts, I said, I have to do something else now. And that's when I did.
I begin to wonder in a situation because I have been in a similar situation. I wonder if the director is frustrated because he is not able to get his message across to you, and the frustration is within himself and takes it out on you.
I'm sure that's true. That makes perfect sense. That he wasn't being good enough, whatever the reason, or he hired the wrong person, or he didn't care for the person that he could hire. I think one of the writers wanted me or something, it didn't work.
But don't you think it's also a false sense of empowerment for him to berate you in front of an entire company?
That's what I told him. In a nice way.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I can't work that way. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I want to talk about someone else in this business, and we're going to talk about this person behind their back. I hope they're watching, and that's Leroy Reams.
I love him. And I'm saying I didn't really know Leroy Reams. Singing with him has been a joy. And working with Alex Ryback, who is my accompanist and brilliant, brilliant guy. And he said, Leroy Reams. And I said, okay. And we started singing, when the moon was young. And I went, oh my God, this is the most fun. I adore him.
How did this come about? Was it Alex Rybeck that called you and asked you to be a part of this?
Yeah. And it was an accident. I said, to sing with Leroy Reams. I certainly knew who
There
that
are no
was.
accidents, Rita. No, I don't believe it's an accident.
Oh, well, I mean, I said, well, what do we call it? It was something from the sky,
Kismet.
from
Kismet.
here, something that came down on me. And I said yes in 2 seconds. I just knew it was right.
Oh,
And I'm still rehearsing with him, and I just love it. And I the reason I say it, I said to Alex, this has been such fun, and Leroy has enjoyed it. So we become friends.
oh, he is just, you've never worked together before.
No.
Wow.
No. This was all a surprise. But everything is a surprise. The good things are surprises, aren't they? The
Wow.
good things go, oh, this is terrific, and it surprises me. And it's such a marvelous feeling when you don't meet someone and say, let me out of here. You know what I mean?
Well, let's talk about this other surprise, and that you and Alex Rybeck have been working together for several years.
Oh, a long time.
I just love Alex Rybeck. So how did you and Alex begin to work together?
Gee, it goes back so long. Somebody introduced us, I think, or recommended him, something like that. And it just all works. It just works. You know, that's who I need. He sits down and plays, and it's magic. And I love
alchemy in the theater of these things coming together, and it just works.
Yes. Sometimes things work. Not all the time, but some.
The last time I saw you on stage was the Oscar Hammerstein Awards, when you performed for Tom Jones and Harvey Schmidt. And it was Harvey Schmidt's last appearance. We unfortunately lost him a few weeks later, but he was there that night. God bless him. What was that experience like for you that night, to be able to be there for this incredible gala evening to celebrate these two men?
I was very, 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 very nervous, but I was so thrilled to be there.
Well, you were wonderful that night, just incredible. And I told you that evening how wonderful you were.
And the thing is that he touched my hand and he said, Rita, I always loved you. And I'll never forget that. And the silly thing is, I owed him money once. I owed him money. And he sent back the money. You don't owe me anything. And he gave me $1. And I still have the $1.
Well, I am going to tell you, I'm going to give away, I've got this little book. This is my Richard Skipper Celebrates mug. And I'm going to give it away to one of our lucky winners today. Not this one. I'm going to give a new mug away. And so what I do is I'm going to bring this up. The word today is compassion, because we need more compassion in the world, compassion in the theater, compassion with each other. A lot of compassion in the world right now. I send compassion to Ukraine. This is National Red Cross Month. If any of you were able to give to the Red Cross this month, please do so. Rita, I end my shows with my little homage to James Lipton inside the Actors Studio. So I've got some questions here that I'm going to ask you. And anyone, if you leave a comment with #compassion, you have a chance to win a Richard Skipper Celebrates mug, and it'll go out in today's mail for you. So the first question that I'm going to ask you is, what is something that you will never understand in this profession?
What is something? I don't really know, but sometimes I don't always understand the anger from people. The anger. The not looking at something and saying, "Isn't that wonderful?" Or at least it has something for me. It's just something mean, something angry.
I totally am with you on that one. Um, this next question, do you believe in the afterlife? And if so, what do you think it will be like?
I've never really thought about that, so I can't answer it.
Okay. Um, who is the person with whom you've been most infatuated with in this business?
Infatuated? It's a strange thing, but it's not a question of being infatuated. It's I saw when I was in Paris once, I saw Gregory Peck walk up the steps and everyone just stared. I never saw anybody in my life that handsome. And I went, oh, I hope I get to work with him. I, it was just an amazing look of some man who was just who he was at that moment. And I always remember that. When it comes to hearing somebody sing, oh God, there have been some people that I've loved. Alfred Drake.
Oh, yeah. Did you ever get a chance to meet Gregory Peck?
No, I just stared at him.
um, with this other question, I've already you pretty much have answered this other question. I'm going to throw this one out. You already answered it. What do you not like doing in this profession, or is there anything that you have not liked doing that was difficult to get through?
It was difficult because I was really not right for it. I played a janitor somewhere, and I said, it's the wrong person. I'm not right for this. They hired the wrong person, and I just knew the part wasn't right. I'm not going to talk about the show.
That's quite all right. This is about celebrating, and maybe you've answered this next question. But what is the best possible attitude to have in this profession?
Not to expect anything and be surprised when it happens.
Well, where do you hear my closing remarks? What scares you about where we are in this profession now?
Because there is no profession. I mean, I was working there all the time and it was over. And people are trying to get work and people are trying to at least have some of the shows, you know, that they said they planned, not close and then open. It's that it's not there now. Not really.
Yeah.
I want it to be there.
Me too. Absolutely. What activities outside of the theater give you purpose?
I don't know what it is, but you know, since I was a kid, we always got the New York Times. So I have the New York Times delivered, aside from books that I love to read. But the fact is that when I see the newspaper, I feel I'm a kid. It's coming to my door. Oh, isn't that wonderful? I have a paper right at my door that I love to read. I love that.
That's great. I love getting the newspaper as well. It's thrown in my front door every morning. I go for a walk first thing in the morning, and when I walk up my door, the newspaper is right there.
I love it.
It's great. I love getting that. And my last question: are you a pet person? Do you have pets?
I once had a cat called Homer.
Okay.
And I loved that cat. That's all I remember is Homer, because he would sit at the door and always knew it was me. And he was the strangest cat. And one day when I was at an audition, the guy that was running the audition had a cat. And the cat sat on my lap. And he said, "You love cats?" I said, "Yes, I have a cat." And that's why I got the job. So I love cats.
And you know, so we're going to do this giveaway here. So I'm going to show you how this works. We just have a couple of people who have entered. So my hands are here. So you see that I have nothing to do with picking the winner.
I'm sure.
And it's Barbara George again. Barbara, just private message me later, and we'll get this mug out to you. I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to bring you up closer. Rita, I love you so much. I am such a fan of yours, and I love your ethic, the way that you just the passion that you have for this business is still so much that's there. And thank you for the gifts that you've given. Don't go anywhere for a moment. I want to thank everybody who showed up today. I know that I can speak for Rita when I say this. When you show up, we don't take it lightly. So thank you for showing up today. If this is your first time here, I hope it will not be your last. Please subscribe to this channel and check out the other artists that I've celebrated here. That's what my goal is, to celebrate artists and their body of worth. I believe that everyone is worth celebrating. And the word that I chose today was compassion, because I am seeing so little compassion in the world right now. I saw this morning on an article that Girl Scouts are being yelled at when they are delivering Girl Scout cookies because of their connection, allegedly, with Planned Parenthood. These are little girls that are delivering cookies for their troops, whatever. And if we're yelling at children that are trying to raise money for their troops, there's no hope in this world. And I believe that we need to be compassionate with each other. And that's why I chose that word for today, compassion. We need to have more compassion for each other. I always end every show by telling everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. Go to your Facebook friends list and go to the second name that pops up and reach out with a phone call. Not an email message, not a text message, not a private inbox message, but a phone call. And let that person know what they mean to you. As our dear friend David Friedman always says, we're all in this together, but we're not in the same boat. And I always say, if you're going to go out in a boat, make sure you bring a skipper along. Now, Rita, I'm going to leave the screen and I'm going to give you the final word. Anything you want to say about anything that we've talked about today that you want to build upon, anything that we didn't talk about that you wish we had, or just any message that you want to give to anyone who's watching right now, don't worry about how to end the show. As soon as you say goodbye, the final credits will roll. Thank you for all you've done. Thanks for the gifts you've given to the world and that you're going to continue to give. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Richard, this was a joy and it was a great surprise.
Thank you.
And so it makes me feel even better. I adored this hour. Thank you.
Thank you. Now you've got the final word. It's all yours.
Oh, bye-bye.